anything that you create as a hobby, like it'll humble you, because if you try something new, you know you're not the best at it. The dangerous thing about becoming successful at one thing is like eventually your ego starts to grow, and like, oh, I have these accolades, so I know what I'm talking about, and that kind of closes you off from learning. So if you have something on the side where you're constantly learning and you need to learn to get better, it reminds you, hey, you were once over there.
In order to survive in this business, you have to learn how to work faster, smarter, set up your workflows so that you're still able to produce a quality product in a fraction of the time. That's where the challenge comes in. When I was mixing features, we would get a lot of time to go in and pre-mix the dialogue and clean it up and match the ADR and spend time on the final mix and massage the music with the dialogue, with the effects. That's non-existent now. And so you have to learn how to just work smarter to survive.
I always wanted to do this. Like I went to audio, like right out of high school, I went to audio school. First SAE and then Full Sail. Got on a U-Haul, packed up everything the day I graduated, moved to New York City. That day had an interview at a recording studio, and that's how it started. Like I always wanted to do this, and I kind of shaped my life to do this. God had it in my head that even before I knew what an engineer was, I wanted to be an engineer, just because I always loved music, but I was never really good enough to like be a musician. I was like, like I say, if I can't be a rock star, you might as well work with them.
I think I had a similar thing though, because when I was little, I played in bands. I played bass. I was always, like, oh, I'm gonna be in a band, or I'm gonna start a band, and then hopefully, become successful. And then it sort of turned to 2007, 2008, where things started to slightly change. You know what I mean? And hip hop started to become very prevalent with the mixtape era. For me, it was like I made a decision, so I started to research like what other jobs there were. There's like studio manager, assistant, mixer, recording engineer. And so that kind of became the thing, is like to become a recording engineer was the beginning. I wasn't necessarily thinking like, oh, I want to become a mixer, because it was so far out from where I was. I was 16, 17 years old. So having that sort of thought, my brain wasn't even all the way there yet to have those type of thoughts. But recording was sort of the thing that I wanted to do. It was like, if I can be a recording engineer, then I'm good, but clearly it didn't end there. So now we're just mixing.
My philosophy in mixing stems from listening to old school records and asking a lot of questions, and how people used to do records, how Zeppelin did the drums in a manner, you know what I'm saying? They did it in a house. The Big Pink by the band, that was done at a house up in Woodstock, and then they finished it off in Sammy Davis Jr.'s Cabana house. And it's online, you can see it. So everything was there. They didn't have a recording studio. Then going to Bill Putnam's studio, asking all these questions. He used friggin' pegboards for acoustical treatment, where it didn't matter about technology, it just mattered about the imagination. And that's where it really, really stems from. And still, I use my imagination still to this day.
So I started when I was 17 in 1975. The very first session I ever did, that client I still work with today. And in fact, he sent me an email this morning. He wants to do something in September. So my advice, the best thing you can do is be great with your clients, because if you have a really great working relationship. Now, I've not worked with him every year on and off, and there might have gone for a couple of years where I haven't worked with him, but it's been regular. And he often says to his friends, I've known Steve since he was a young boy, which is absolutely true.
If you know my story a little bit, I'm from Germany and I'm a jazz pianist, and I wanted to be a jazz pianist until I figured out that Herbie Hancock is already there, and he's much better than me and more good looking too, of course. So, I was like, how can I be one of the cats? And one of the cats being, if you if you actually know music, then being one of the cats means the person in the room who can hang with the band and play, etc. And I'm like, I'm gonna try to be your fifth Beatle, hang with the cats, make a musician sound good. That sounds to me like a great approach. So that's why I even became an engineer, and that's why I am an engineer right now, because that's the actual goal.